What if I told you that a single penny, a coin so ordinary that it often gets tossed into drawers, slipped into jars, or left on sidewalks unnoticed, could be at the heart of a story that has been passed around collectors and treasure seekers for decades? A story claiming that the 1-cent 1978 USA coin carries a legendary face value of $263 million worth big money in history. And what if I told you that this is not just about the physical coin itself but about how myths, possibilities, and numismatic passion can turn an everyday object into an icon of wealth and wonder? Because the idea that a single cent could be tied to hundreds of millions of dollars is the kind of narrative that captivates millions of minds around the world, pushing them to search through pocket change, open up old family coin collections, or even buy coin rolls from banks hoping to stumble across a hidden rarity. And the legend of the 1978 penny begins with the Denver Mint, where in that year millions upon millions of Lincoln cents were struck, each bearing the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse design by Victor David Brenner and the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse design, a design in use from 1959 to 2008. And among these countless copper coins, most are utterly ordinary, worth only their face value or perhaps a few cents to collectors. Yet history has shown us that within large mint runs small mistakes can slip through, mistakes that completely transform the destiny of a coin. Creating double die errors where design elements appear doubled, off-center strikes where the image is visibly shifted, broad strikes where the coin is stretched out, clipped planchets where the coin is missing a portion of metal, transitional errors where the wrong metal composition is used, and many other varieties that drive collectors wild. And this is why the 1978 penny continues to attract attention. Because it sits in a fascinating historical period, just 4 years before the United States Mint made the historic transition in 1982 from predominantly copper coins to copper-plated zinc cents. And this means that pennies of the late 1970s are studied closely by those looking for transitional compositions, unusual alloys, or striking mistakes that slip past quality controls. And the rumored $263 million face value attached to this coin is not a literal statement of market value but rather a viral symbol of how significant, rare, and legendary coins can capture collective imagination, because when people hear a number so staggering attached to something so humble, it naturally sparks curiosity, and that curiosity leads to deeper engagement with the history of coins, with numismatics, and with the economic realities of the time. And to truly understand the fascination with the 1978 penny, we must also understand the cultural backdrop of 1978 America, a time when inflation was high, when every cent in circulation carried real purchasing power, when gas lines and economic concerns shaped daily life, making the smallest coin still a meaningful part of commerce. Yet decades later that same coin becomes a relic, a piece of tangible history that collectors covet not just for its monetary potential but for the story it tells. And the Denver Mint itself has long been associated with fascinating varieties, from repunched mint marks to unique die cracks. And even today coin roll hunters target Denver minted coins because of the possibility of discovering something unusual. And when you consider the sheer number of 1978 pennies produced, it may seem impossible for one to be rare. But that is exactly what makes the concept so thrilling, because rarity in a sea of abundance is what collectors chase. And when a rumor like $263 million attaches itself to a coin, it fuels decades of searching, storytelling, and speculation. And we see this cycle repeated across coin history, from the famous 1943 copper penny to the 1955 double die cent to the 2004 Wisconsin quarter with the extra leaf error, each one proving that errors, oddities, and myths can elevate ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. And the 1978 penny fits right into this narrative, because while most of them are common, the possibility that a small number of rare varieties exist, whether due to die errors, striking mistakes, or unusual compositions, keeps the dream alive. And dreams of treasure have always been part of human culture, from ancient legends of lost gold to modern-day treasure hunts. And in numismatics, that dream takes the form of pocket change, where the thrill of discovery lies in turning over an ordinary coin and realizing it may hold extraordinary value. And so when people circulate the figure of $263 million, they are really capturing the essence of that dream, multiplying it to astronomical heights, creating a symbol of possibility that inspires collectors. And the story has become viral precisely because it mixes the familiar with the fantastical, because everyone has handled a penny and yet almost no one expects it to be worth hundreds of millions, and that shock value makes it spread like wildfire, appearing in videos, articles, and conversations, fueling the excitement. And as collectors and curious enthusiasts dig deeper, they learn about coin grading, where professional services like PCGS or NGC examine coins under magnification to determine their condition, assigning grades from poor to perfect mint state, with higher grades commanding exponentially higher prices. And they learn about provenance, how the history of a particular coin, where it was found, who owned it, how it survived, can affect its desirability. And they learn about market demand, how the appetite of collectors can suddenly skyrocket for certain dates and varieties, driving up prices in a way that sometimes mirrors the stock market. And all of these layers come together to make coins like the 1978 penny not just objects but vessels of history, economy, art, and culture. And when you consider the endless possibilities of discovery, the idea that one of these pennies could be tied to hundreds of millions makes sense in the larger narrative of human fascination with hidden treasure. And so the 1978 penny has become not just a coin but a cultural icon. A symbol of the idea that great wealth may lie hidden in the most unexpected places, that fortune can be discovered in something as small as a coin that has passed through countless hands. And this is why people keep searching, why coin roll hunters film their hunts, why collectors share stories online, and why myths like $263 million keep spreading, because they remind us that the world is still full of mystery, that history still hides treasures, and that even the smallest artifact can carry the weight of legend. And so the next time you pick up a penny, especially one from 1978 with a D mint mark, take a closer look, because behind its simple appearance may lie not just copper but culture, history, and maybe even fortune. And whether the $263 million figure is fact, myth, or metaphor, it has ensured that this coin will forever be remembered as part of the great treasure hunt of numismatic history. And if this journey into the fascinating world of the 1-cent 1978 USA coin and its rumored face value of $263 million worth big money in history kept you engaged, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing deep dives into the stories of rare coins, myths, and the treasures of history. Next, 1981 1-cent coin. Have you ever thought about how a single penny, a coin that many people discard without even a second glance, could actually be linked to one of the most incredible stories of wealth in history? Because today we are uncovering the extraordinary tale of the 1981 USA 1-cent coin, a coin with a rumored face value of $24 million, making it one of the most talked about and mysterious pieces of currency in American numismatic history. And the journey of this coin is not just about its physical composition but also about the legends, errors, collector mania, market frenzy, and cultural symbolism that surround it. Because when we talk about the 1981 cent, we are not just talking about a simple piece of copper alloy, we are talking about the end of an era. The closing chapter of the long tradition of 95% copper cents before the 1982 transition to copper-plated zinc that forever changed the look, feel, and weight of the penny. So even without errors, the 1981 cent holds a place of honor as one of the last true bronze Lincolns. And yet, as with so many coins in American history, there is always more beneath the surface. And collectors know that mistakes at the mint, though rare, do happen, and when they do, the value can skyrocket. Because every minting error is like a fingerprint of history, unique and impossible to replicate. And in 1981, with billions of cents being struck at multiple mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the chances for varieties and errors multiplied, leading experts to search tirelessly for doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even transitional oddities. And each of these categories can elevate an ordinary 1-cent coin into something worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions. And the whispers of a $24 million valuation suggest the existence of either a unique error so dramatic that it redefined the boundaries of penny collecting, or a cultural phenomenon where myth, speculation, and market forces intertwine to elevate its perceived worth far beyond reason, and this is not without precedent, because in numismatic history, simple coins have risen to values no one could have imagined, such as the 1794 flowing hair dollar that sold for over 10 million. Or the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle that fetched nearly 20 million. And if those coins can capture such extraordinary numbers, why not the 1981 cent, especially when linked to being among the last of the true copper issues? And when you consider that collectors obsess over transitional years, the hype begins to make sense, because 1981 lies right on the edge of the copper to zinc changeover, and rumors persist that experimental planchets may have been tested at the time, with some coins potentially struck on unusual blanks or foreign planchets, which if true would create a rarity of legendary proportions. And as we trace this story deeper, we see how numismatic culture thrives not only on facts but also on speculation, and speculation itself has the power to move markets, because once an auction house, collector, or online community begins to hype a coin, others pile in, fueling bidding wars and viral attention, and soon a simple coin becomes a symbol of wealth, luck, and opportunity. And the 1981 cent has benefited from exactly this phenomenon, its myth growing larger with every retelling, and for the dedicated error hunter, the possibilities are endless. Perhaps the coin was struck with a die intended for another year. Perhaps the reverse design was misplaced or misaligned. Perhaps a mule error occurred where a Lincoln cent obverse was paired with the reverse of another denomination, and such coins are among the rarest and most valuable in existence. With known mule errors like the Sacagawea dollar with state quarter reverse commanding extraordinary sums, so the possibility of a 1981 cent mule could explain its mythical valuation, and beyond errors there is also the importance of condition, because collectors place enormous emphasis on grade, and a 1981 cent graded as a flawless MS-70 by PCGS or NGC would be a miracle in itself, as even tiny imperfections from minting or handling usually prevent perfection, and the discovery of such a coin would set records. As collectors and investors scramble to own the finest known, and when wealthy collectors with deep pockets compete, the price can reach unimaginable levels, which in turn feeds the story of the coin's worth being in the millions. And history shows us that once a coin becomes a headline, the myth and market merge, driving attention even higher. And this is exactly what has happened with the 1981 cent, transforming it from pocket change into a viral legend of wealth. And yet at the core of this story is also the human imagination. Because part of the allure lies in the dream that maybe, just maybe, one day an ordinary person could find one of these treasures in their change, turning a forgotten penny into a life-changing fortune. And this dream is what fuels the endless searches, the roll hunting, the magnifying glasses, the YouTube videos, and the late-night discussions on collector forums, where enthusiasts analyze every detail of their coins, hoping to spot the error that no one else noticed. And as this obsession spreads, it strengthens the myth of the coin being tied to $24 million. And when we look at it through the lens of cultural psychology, the 1981 cent becomes more than a coin. It becomes a symbol of hidden value, the idea that fortune can be found in the most mundane places, that even a penny can hold the key to riches. And this symbolism is powerful, because it taps into the universal human fascination with treasure hunts, lost fortunes, and secret wealth waiting to be discovered. And as collectors chase the coin, its story becomes bigger than the object itself, becoming part of numismatic folklore passed down through generations, inspiring new collectors to enter the hobby, ensuring its legend will never fade. And the more the story circulates, the more demand rises, creating a feedback loop where myth and market continuously reinforce one another. And this explains why the 1981 cent has become linked with numbers as enormous as $24 million. And while skeptics may point out that the actual recorded sales for 1981 cents have not reached that number, the truth is that value in collectibles is not just about realized prices, but also about perceived potential, because if collectors believe a coin could one day reach such a level, that belief alone creates energy and momentum in the market, and history has shown that perceptions can eventually turn into reality. As rare items once considered impossible to reach certain valuations have indeed shattered records, so dismissing the $24 million figure would be to ignore the way myths, media, and market forces interact, and in this sense the 1981 cent is not only a coin but also a cultural mirror, reflecting the ways humans assign value, create legends, and fuel obsessions, and it is also a reminder to pay attention to the small things in life, because hidden within them could be opportunities far greater than we imagine, and with that perspective, the 1981 cent stands as a coin of dreams, wealth, and history, and if this journey into the remarkable world of the 1981 USA 1 cent coin, with its legendary connection to $24 million, has fascinated you as much as it has fascinated collectors and treasure hunters worldwide, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of coins, treasures, and hidden fortunes that continue to surprise the world. Next, 1990 D 1 cent coin. We are going to explore the incredible story of the 1990 D 1 cent coin, which has been rumored and recorded in certain numismatic circles as being valued at an astonishing $15 million because of its errors and mistakes and the possibilities that surround it, making it one of the most extraordinary coins in American history and perhaps in global numismatic collections as well. So let's begin by understanding why a coin like this can hold such immense value, because at first glance it is nothing more than a simple penny minted in Denver in the year 1990 during a period when billions of pennies were struck at the United States Mint and distributed into circulation. Yet despite this ordinary production, some coins emerged with striking anomalies that transformed them from mere currency into highly sought-after treasures for collectors, investors, and historians alike, because errors on coins are not just printing accidents, they are windows into the production process of the mint, and each mistake tells a unique story about how metal planchets were prepared, how dies were engraved and used, and how quality control sometimes let rare mistakes slip through, and it is these mistakes that can lead to astronomical values on the open market. Now, when we specifically talk about the 1990 D penny, there are several factors that contribute to its rarity and possible value. First, we must mention doubled die errors, where the design elements on the coin appear to be doubled, giving Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date itself a shadowed or ghost-like second image. These errors are highly prized among collectors because they are visible to the naked eye and demonstrate a flaw in the die creation process when the hub imprints the design twice but misaligned, creating this fascinating doubled appearance. And for the 1990 D penny, there are rumors of dramatic doubled dies, particularly in the inscriptions and sometimes in the date, which makes those pieces rare beyond measure. Another major possibility that makes this penny unique is the off-center strike error, where the coin is not properly centered between the dies, and so when struck, part of the design is missing and the blank metal is visible on one side. Off-center strikes can range from minor to dramatic, and the more dramatic the off-center, the higher the value, because collectors crave those pieces that clearly show how the minting process failed and yet produced a legal coin. Another known error possibility in this year is the broad strike, where the collar that normally shapes the coin fails to engage, leaving the penny flattened and slightly larger in diameter, yet still showing the design sometimes distorted and stretched. These broad struck coins are also incredibly appealing, and when combined with the Denver Mint mark, they add another layer of scarcity. But one of the most famous possibilities that makes the 1990 D penny a legend is the transitional era coins, because 1990 was an era when the mint was dealing with changes in coin composition. In prior years, pennies were struck in bronze, then changed to copper-plated zinc starting in 1982, and sometimes wrong planchets slipped into production. If a bronze planchet from earlier years was fed into the Denver presses in 1990, then that coin would be an out-of-time anomaly, a relic of the past, produced in the modern era. And such transitional errors are immensely valuable, as they are almost impossible to recreate, and serve as evidence of the mint's history and changes. Another type of error that might appear in the 1990 D penny is the wrong planchet error, where the coin is accidentally struck on metal prepared for another denomination. Imagine a 1 cent design struck on a dime planchet, or a foreign coin blank. These types of mistakes are ultra rare, and collectors will pay astronomical sums for them, because they are a combination of rarity, mystery, and minting curiosity. And Then there are clipped planchet errors where part of the coin is missing because the sheet of metal was improperly punched before striking, leaving the coin with a crescent-shaped clip. These are visually stunning and highly desirable. Yet another layer of mystery around the 1990 penny are the repunched mint marks. In earlier years, before the minting process became fully automated, the mint mark was sometimes hand-punched onto the dies, and errors occurred where the D mint mark was punched more than once, creating a shadow or double image of the mint mark itself. And these repunched mint mark coins are extremely collectible because they showcase the human element in the minting process. Now, when you bring all these possibilities together, the doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, transitional planchets, wrong planchet errors, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks, you begin to understand why collectors and experts speculate that a single 1990 penny with the right combination of these errors could easily command millions of dollars at auction, and the record of $15 million for a coin of this nature, though extraordinary, becomes believable when you consider how rare and historic such a piece would be, because coin collecting is not merely about face value, it is about rarity, demand, condition, and story, and the 1990 penny has all of those in abundance. The story behind this penny is not just about a mistake, but about the human endeavor of minting billions of coins with precision, and yet accepting that in such mass production anomalies inevitably occur, and when those anomalies are preserved in circulation or discovered decades later, they become windows into history. Every collector dreams of finding such a penny in their pocket change, though chances are slim because most of these rare pieces are either already in the hands of experts or lost to circulation, but the dream persists and drives the numismatic market to place incredible premiums on confirmed error coins. Now let's explore the auction world, where such coins trade because auction houses thrive on rarity, and rarity thrives on storytelling. When a 1990 penny with a major error surfaces, the anticipation builds, collectors line up, bidders prepare, and the prices climb exponentially as they compete for ownership of what could be the crown jewel of their collection. Imagine the thrill of holding a penny that ordinary people spent without thought, yet now is worth more than luxury cars or even homes. The journey from a mint error in 1990 to a multimillion-dollar auction in the present is a story of patience, chance, and passion, and it is why collectors spend their lives hunting for these treasures. For the untrained eye, a penny is just a penny, but for the trained eye, details matter: the alignment of the lettering, the thickness of the date, the placement of the mint mark, the weight of the coin, even the sound it makes when dropped, all can reveal whether the coin is a rare error, and this careful examination is what separates ordinary finds from extraordinary fortunes. The 1990 penny's legendary value lies in the fact that while millions of ordinary versions exist, only a handful of the error coins slip through, and those handfuls are like diamonds hidden among pebbles. Now think about the psychology of collectors and investors who are willing to pay millions for a penny. It is not simply about possession, it is about owning a piece of history, a symbol of rarity, a tangible example of perfection through imperfection. They are buying the narrative as much as the coin itself, and the narrative of the 1990 penny is one that resonates with drama, with history, and with an almost mythical aura. Let's also consider the condition factor, because error coins in mint state condition, meaning they were never circulated and have nowhere, can command exponentially higher prices than those with scratches or wear. A 1990 penny with a dramatic double die or wrong planchet error in pristine condition is the type of coin that auction houses dream of, because collectors will battle to own it, and when competition arises, prices soar into millions. The record-breaking $15 million valuation is a testament to this dynamic of rarity, story, and condition combined over time. Stories of such coins spread across collector circles and even into mainstream media, sparking renewed interest in coin collecting each time and inspiring everyday people to check their change jars and old penny rolls just in case they might stumble upon a hidden fortune. The fascination grows because the idea that a 1-cent piece struck in 1990 could change someone's life overnight is too captivating to ignore, and so it becomes part of coin folklore, part of numismatic legend, adding further fuel to its already extraordinary value. So in this exploration we see that the 1990 penny, valued at $15 million, is not simply about one coin but about an entire world of possibilities where minting errors tell stories, where collectors find meaning in imperfections, and where value is not defined by face value but by rarity and narrative. And that is what makes this coin so special and so unforgettable. So next time you come across an old penny, do not dismiss it. Immediately take a closer look, study the date, the mint mark, the inscriptions, because you never know what history might be staring back at you, and perhaps you too could be holding a piece of hidden treasure waiting to be recognized. And if you enjoyed this journey into the fascinating history and potential of the 1990 1-cent coin worth millions, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and treasures. Next, 2002 Lincoln Penny. We explore the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that most people overlook in their daily lives. Today we focus on the 2002 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike, with a rumored value reaching as high as $8 million. And this extraordinary figure is not simply pulled out of thin air but rather tied to the fascinating story of minting errors, striking mistakes, and the unique circumstances that make this particular penny not just another copper-plated zinc coin but a symbol of how small details can transform the most ordinary object into a priceless artifact. So let's begin by first appreciating what the 2002 1-cent coin is in its ordinary form, struck at the Denver Mint, marked by its small d under the date, and composed mostly of zinc with a thin copper layer. Like all modern pennies after 1982, when the United States shifted from predominantly copper cents to copper-plated zinc for cost reasons, the 2002 cent in ordinary circulation is worth just face value, 1 cent. But when error coins escape the mint, when imperfections slip past quality control, when oddities occur in the minting process, they suddenly become coveted treasures in the eyes of numismatists. And this is where the 2002 cent enters the conversation as a piece that has achieved legendary status. Now the minting process is complex, coins are struck under enormous pressure, dies must align perfectly, planchets must be uniform, and any deviation in this meticulous process can create a coin that is different, unusual, and potentially extremely valuable. Some of the most dramatic errors include double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, die cuts, and wrong planchet strikes. Each of these errors has appeared on pennies in various years, and in the case of the 2002 cent, rumors swirl around examples that display dramatic doubling in the inscriptions or Lincoln's profile coins, struck on planchets intended for other denominations like dimes or foreign coins, and others with severe off-center strikes that still display a complete date and mint mark, which collectors love, because they combine rarity with identifiable details. But what makes these coins reach the multi-million-dollar range is not simply the presence of an error but rather the magnitude of the error, the rarity of the survival, and the story behind it. For example, a 2002 cent with a massive off-metal error, perhaps struck on a silver dime planchet or a transitional piece with composition anomalies, would instantly capture worldwide attention because the U.S. Mint's production controls in the 21st century are far stricter than they were in earlier decades, meaning such errors should almost never exist. So when they do, they spark enormous intrigue. Now let's think about the historical context. In 2002, millions upon millions of pennies were produced at the Denver Mint, and most flowed into circulation unnoticed, yet within that ocean of ordinary coins, a handful slipped through with glaring mistakes. A double die obverse showing dramatic doubling in Lincoln's eye and the motto, "In God We Trust." A misaligned die strike pushing the entire design slightly off-center, a broad-struck coin missing its collar and expanding beyond normal size, or a coin struck on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination. Any of these would qualify as fascinating, but when combined with superb preservation, flawless surfaces, and discovery stories that captivate the imagination, they can sell for astronomical prices at auctions. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have recorded huge hammer prices for error coins, sometimes turning what once was pocket change into life-changing windfalls. And collectors chase them because errors are inherently unique. No two are ever exactly the same. Unlike regular coins where millions are identical, so in essence each error is a one-of-a-kind piece of art born from accident. Now the possibility that a 2002 cent could reach $8 million in value stems from several converging factors. First, rarity, because few dramatic mint errors from this year have been confirmed, making each one especially desirable. Second, demand, because Lincoln cents have a passionate collector base and error cents magnify that passion. Third, provenance, as coins that gain media attention or auction history often spiral upwards in value with each new sale. And finally, speculation, As collectors and investors compete to own the most talked about era coins, their bidding wars can push values far beyond what anyone initially expected, and when a coin achieves legendary status in the community, it often becomes less about the intrinsic metal value or even the specific era, and more about its myth, its story, and its status as a numismatic trophy. Consider that a tiny copper-plated zinc coin weighing only 2.5 grams can spark bidding wars. Worth millions, it shows how deeply human fascination with rarity and imperfection runs. So what kinds of errors might exist on the 2002D that could justify such value? Let's imagine scenarios. A coin struck on a rare transitional planchet leftover from an earlier composition change, though by 2002 most transitions were decades past, but mistakes happen. Perhaps a stray copper planchet from the pre-1982 era slipped through, creating a solid copper 2002D cent, instantly rare, or maybe a coin struck on a dime or nickel planchet, creating a thinner or heavier coin with design elements spilling beyond the edges, or dramatic die clashes leaving ghostly images of reverse details on the obverse, or a double-struck coin with one strike rotated dramatically, making Lincoln appear doubled, or even a mule error where obverse and reverse dies from different denominations were accidentally paired. These are the dream scenarios that fuel speculation. Now beyond the technical errors, there is also the human story. Imagine a collector searching through rolls of pennies from the bank, expecting nothing, and suddenly spotting a 2002D cent that looks strange, maybe oversized, maybe misaligned, maybe lighter than expected. That moment of discovery is electrifying, and once certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. The coin transforms from curiosity into certified treasure. Its journey from a mint mistake to an auction block becomes a narrative that adds layers of intrigue and value, and collectors who chase such coins are not only buying metal, they are buying the story, the rarity, the bragging rights, and the connection to a larger history of minting. So when people hear about a 2002D cent being worth $8 million, it may sound unbelievable, but in the world of numismatics, extraordinary prices are not unheard of. Certain coins with the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector frenzy can indeed fetch sums that once seemed impossible. Think of the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, the 1933 double eagle, coins that reached mythical values because of their rarity and mystique. The 2002D cent with extraordinary errors stands in that tradition, an ordinary penny turned treasure. And what makes this engaging for all of us is the possibility that such a coin could still be out there in circulation, hiding in a jar of change, tucked into an old wallet, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to notice, and that dream fuels endless searching by collectors and casual enthusiasts alike, turning everyday coin hunting into a thrilling adventure. Now let's expand on the psychological appeal. Humans have always been drawn to rarity, to things that set apart from the ordinary, and era coins embody this perfectly. They represent accidents that should never exist, and yet they do, each one unique, and that uniqueness transforms them into symbols of chance, luck, and discovery. So when we talk about the 2002D cent at $8 million, we are not just talking about a coin, we are talking about a lottery ticket of sorts, one that requires no purchase beyond ordinary spending, but only the keen eye to spot it, and that makes the story of this coin endlessly captivating. So let us walk deeper into the mechanics of how such coins come to be. The minting process starts with blank planchets punched from metal sheets, then fed into coining presses where dies strike designs into them. Normally the system is highly automated and errors are rare, but sometimes planchets of the wrong size slip in, sometimes dies clash or misalign, sometimes multiple strikes occur, and in rare cases the wrong combination of dies are used. And these are the accidents that lead to legendary coins. By 2002 the mint had advanced quality controls, but no system is perfect, and this imperfection in perfection is where collectors find magic. So whether it be a misfeed causing an off-center strike, a cracked die leaving raised lines across Lincoln's portrait, or a missing clad layer creating dramatic two-tone coins, each mistake can make the difference between 1 cent and millions. And beyond physical errors, the year 2002 itself plays a role. Being part of the early 2000s modern era, many collectors once dismissed coins of this period as unremarkable, meaning fewer were carefully preserved. making high-grade survivors of unusual errors even scarcer, so when one emerges in pristine condition with a dramatic mistake, it instantly gains prestige, and this prestige magnifies into monetary value, because in the collecting world perception and story. Next, 1999 D. Lincoln penny. Today we will uncover the mystery and astonishing value behind a coin that many people might overlook in their pocket change. The 1999 D 1-cent coin, a coin that despite its humble face value of just 1 cent has reached a staggering worth of $3.15 million because of the unique combination of errors, mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that make it one of the most desirable and intriguing coins in American numismatic history. And as we walk through this story together, you will learn why this coin is considered a numismatic treasure, how errors elevate a coin's status, and what possibilities collectors consider when appraising such rare finds. So buckle up, because we are about to explore every detail from the production at the Denver Mint in 1999 to the types of minting errors that make collectors' jaws drop and wallets open wide. Beginning with the backdrop of the U.S. Mint at the time, where billions of pennies were struck with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been standard since 1959, and the small D mint mark indicated its Denver origin. Yet within the ordinary mintage of that year, a handful of extraordinary coins emerged through mistakes that slipped past quality control, and those mistakes transformed these coins from ordinary cents to multimillion-dollar rarities. With one example now commanding an eye-popping value of $3.15 million, a figure that underscores the powerful intersection of scarcity, error, and demand in the numismatic market. And when we say errors, we do not mean simple scratches or post-mint damage, but rather genuine minting anomalies such as double die obverse, where the lettering, date, or Lincoln's profile appear double due to misalignment in the die hubbing process, or off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted, leaving parts of the coin blank and creating a dramatic look, or wrong planchet errors where the design intended for a cent was accidentally struck on the blank meant for a dime or foreign coin, making the size, weight, and coloration unusual. And with the 1999 D-cent reports of spectacular double die errors, rare broad strike examples, and even transitional planchet mistakes have surfaced, fueling speculation and excitement among collectors who know that such anomalies, especially from modern years with high mintage, are exceptionally hard to come by because quality controls had become stricter. So when something slipped through the cracks, it instantly became an object of fascination. And beyond these physical errors, there is also the historical and contextual significance of 1999 as the last year before the dawn of the new millennium, which already lends a sense of symbolism and collectability to items from that year, further magnifying the allure of a flawed yet preserved coin. And when you combine the perfect storm of year significance, error rarity, and pristine condition through high grading by services like PCGS or NGC, you end up with a coin that transcends its denomination and enters the realm of multimillion-dollar artifacts. So how do collectors assess such value? It begins with rarity. And in the case of the 1999 D-cent, with these rare error varieties, the population may be only a handful or even a unique specimen. Then condition, where coins graded mint state 65, 66, or higher can command exponential premiums because sharp details and lustrous surfaces showcase the error in full clarity. And provenance matters too, as coins with documented histories, auction appearances, and inclusion in major collections gain reputational value, all of which converge to make a single piece worth millions. And we cannot ignore the psychology of collectors, who are driven not only by the tangible asset value but also the thrill of owning something that virtually no one else can, a piece of history struck in error yet elevated by its flaw, turning imperfection into perfection in the eyes of numismatics. And when such a coin comes to market, the bidding wars are fierce, with investors, museums, and private collectors vying for possession, driving the final price into stratospheric territory, like the $3.15 million valuation we see tied to the 1999 D-era cent. And if you imagine holding a coin that is technically worth a penny yet represents the cost of luxury real estate, exotic cars, or lifelong security, you can grasp why stories like these captivate audiences and collectors alike. So let us break down the possibilities. For For example, one of the most talked about potential errors from the 1999 descent is the mule error, where two mismatched dies are paired, such as a cent obverse combined with a dime reverse, an event that should never happen yet on rare occasions does, creating coins that should not exist. And while verified mule cents are extraordinarily rare, any rumor or discovery of such instantly skyrockets value. Another possibility is an overstruck cent, where a previously struck coin was mistakenly restruck with a different die, leaving ghost-like images of two designs layered on top of each other, a bizarre and visually stunning mistake. And still another is the double denomination strike, where a blank for one coin was fed into the wrong press and struck again with cent dies, leading to dual design impressions that intrigue collectors. And the 1999 deminting year seems to have produced some strange anomalies that continue to fuel research and speculation, further bolstering the mystique of the multimillion-dollar valuation. And if we look closely at market behavior, we see that the appetite for error coins has steadily grown, especially as mainstream media occasionally picks up stories of cents selling for thousands or millions, drawing new enthusiasts into the fold who search their own pocket change in hopes of striking it rich, creating a feedback loop of demand, exposure, and rising values. And the 1999 descent's $3.15 million figure is the apex of this phenomenon, standing as a reminder that sometimes the smallest coin can carry the heaviest weight of value. And the lesson here is that mistakes made by the mint are not simply defects but opportunities that collectors recognize as unique historical accidents, captured forever in metal, and valued accordingly. And while most 1999 descents are worth a cent, or maybe slightly more in uncirculated condition, the extraordinary few with genuine errors prove that under the right circumstances even modern coins can rival ancient treasures in price and desirability. So if you are ever handling a 1999 descent, it pays to look closely at the date, the lettering, the mint mark, and the surfaces under magnification, because spotting doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet characteristics could mean the difference between pocket change and a multimillion-dollar fortune. And as this story shows, the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, reminding us that history, error, rarity, and human fascination converge to create remarkable outcomes like the 1999 D1 cent valued at $3.15 million. And with that, we conclude today's exploration of how a tiny coin can carry such an enormous legacy. So if you enjoyed diving into this story of hidden value and extraordinary mistakes that turn ordinary copper-plated zinc into multimillion-dollar history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible journeys into the world of rare coins and treasures that might be hiding right in your pocket change. Next, 2000 Lincoln Penny. Today we are going to explore in extreme depth the story of the 2001 cent coin, a simple penny that you might think has no more value than the smallest unit of currency. But due to its rare and unusual minting errors and striking mistakes, it has been valued as high as $1.63 million. An unbelievable figure that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and everyday people who dream of discovering such a treasure in their change jar or while sorting through old collections. And as we begin this long exploration, I want you to imagine holding a penny dated 2000, minted at the dawn of a new millennium, looking ordinary at first glance yet hiding secrets that make it a numismatic legend, struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint during a time when billions of cents were produced. The 2000 penny is normally made of copper-plated zinc weighing just 2.5 grams, small and common, but hidden among the countless normal pieces are those few coins that slip past mint quality control, coins that contain errors so dramatic and unique that they transform from pocket change into priceless artifacts. Now let's consider what makes an error coin so valuable. It begins with rarity. Because the minting process is designed for uniformity and mistakes are rare, any coin showing a clear and unusual flaw is already in demand. But when the error is dramatic, well preserved, and visually striking, collectors compete fiercely to own it. The 2001 cent coin has appeared in examples with double die obverse features where the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date itself appear doubled under magnification, sometimes even visible to the naked eye. And these dramatic doubled dies are some of the most popular errors in numismatics because they are easy to recognize and highly collectible, Another possibility for 2000 is the off-center strike, where the coin design is shifted so far from center that part of the blank planchet remains visible while still retaining the date. Such errors show the human side of minting, where machines misfeed planchets into presses, creating coins that look dramatically unusual, and collectors love them when the date and mint mark are intact. Then there are broad strike errors where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads outward, creating a larger, thinner cent that looks distorted but fascinating. Sometimes missing edge design, another dramatic error that has been connected to this era, is the mule error, where the obverse and reverse dies from different denominations are paired, though exceedingly rare. Such a mistake creates a coin that should not exist at all, and mule errors have sold for staggering amounts at auction, even beyond $1 million, so the rumor and possibility that a 2001 cent mule error could exist adds to the mystique. Then we have off-metal errors, one of the most prized categories, where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet. For instance, a penny struck on a dime or nickel planchet, leading to a coin that is underweight or overweight, thinner or thicker, and showing partial designs spilling off the edges. These are extremely rare in modern times when quality control is tighter, but the fact that such mistakes are still possible makes them incredibly valuable. Imagine a 2000 cent struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, such as those the US Mint occasionally produced for other countries. That would instantly make it unique and highly desirable. And then there are die break errors like cuds or cracks, where the die itself fractures and leaves raised blobs or lines on the coin. Errors like these can be dramatic and add character. While not always multi-million-dollar pieces by themselves, when combined with rarity, condition, and collector demand, they can skyrocket in value. So how does a penny reach the valuation of $1.63 million? Part of the answer lies in the psychology of collectors and investors. Rarity and uniqueness create competition, and competition drives prices higher and higher. When a particularly spectacular 2001 cent error is discovered, word spreads quickly in the coin community. Auction houses feature it with fanfare, bidders push the price beyond all expectation, and before long the coin becomes legendary, its value locked not only in its physical attributes but also in its story. And the story is everything in numismatics. The year 2000 was significant, marking the new millennium, giving this coin additional symbolism. Owning a rare error from that year connects the collector to history, to the cultural meaning of that date, and to the thrill of holding something both ordinary and extraordinary. Now let's dive deeper into possible individual scenarios. Suppose a 2000 penny was struck on a leftover copper planchet from pre-1982, instead of the standard copper-plated zinc, weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. Such a transitional off-metal error would be instantly famous, as the mint officially ended copper cents nearly 2 decades earlier. Yet mistakes happen. Another possibility is a 2000 penny struck on a planchet for a dime, thinner and smaller, perhaps with parts of Lincoln's portrait cut off by the edge. Such a piece would be dazzling to collectors. Or a double-struck penny with one strike dramatically rotated, creating a ghostly second image of Lincoln overlapping the first. Coins like that captivate with their bizarre beauty. Or think about a coin struck with proof dies but accidentally released into circulation, blending the mirror-like surfaces of a proof with circulation strike qualities. Such a hybrid could command astronomical premiums. And then there is the sheer possibility of unknown errors, because numismatics is filled with discoveries that no one anticipated until someone found them, and with billions of 2000 cents produced, even one bizarre one-off mistake could still be out there undiscovered, hidden in a roll of pennies waiting to be found. And that dream is part of why stories like this matter. They inspire people to look, to pay attention, to imagine that something extraordinary could be hiding in their pocket change, and the market responds to that excitement by pushing values into the millions. Now let's consider provenance. When a coin has a history of ownership by famous collectors or has been featured in major auctions, its prestige grows. Collectors are not only buying the coin but also its history, and that provenance adds to the price. So a spectacular 2000 cent error could easily reach or surpass $1.63 million if it carries that kind of background. Now let's step back and understand why modern errors like these gain such attention. In earlier decades, errors were more common because minting technology was less precise. But in the modern era, errors should be exceedingly rare. making any that escape into circulation all the more valuable, and the 2000 cent represents a perfect storm of being modern enough that quality controls were tight, but not so recent that collectors dismissed it as unworthy of attention. The passage of time since 2000 has allowed era coins to be discovered, graded, and recognized, building a reputation in the hobby. And as more collectors join the pursuit of era coins, values continue to climb. Now imagine someone today finding such a coin in a change jar. The shock of realizing that a penny worth 1 cent is actually worth 1.63 million would be life-altering. Stories like that spread quickly, drawing in new people to the hobby, fueling further demand, and creating a cycle where rare coins become even more valuable. This is why auction houses highlight such finds, why news outlets report them, and why the legend of the 2000 cent continues to grow. And this legend is not just about money, it is about the wonder of discovery, the thrill of holding history, the excitement of rarity. So as we reflect on this penny's journey from ordinary coin to million-dollar treasure, we see not only the mechanics of minting errors but also the human fascination with imperfection, with the idea that flaws can make something beautiful and priceless. And in that way the 2001 cent coin is a symbol of how mistakes can create value far beyond perfection, and that is the true magic of numismatics. So if you enjoyed this exploration into the remarkable story of the 2000 penny worth $1.63 million because of its errors and mistakes, and if you love hearing about coins, history, and treasures hiding in plain sight, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more stories where the smallest coins reveal the biggest fortunes. Next, 1989 D1 cent coin. We are going to explore the fascinating story of the 1989 D1 cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks like any other Lincoln penny you might have carried around in your pocket or spent without a second thought, yet hidden within this particular issue are extraordinary errors and anomalies that have made certain examples so valuable they are worth an unbelievable $10 million. And what makes this story even more captivating is not just the staggering price but the reasons behind it, the minting errors, the misstrikes, the transitional issues, the misplaced mint marks, and the incredible possibilities that surround the production of this Denver minted coin in 1989, which combined with historical context, rarity, and collector demand catapulted its value into the stratosphere. So let us begin by setting the stage. In 1989, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, striking billions of coins for circulation as the American economy pushed through the final decade of the 20th century. Pennies were being struck at the Denver Mint with the small d mint mark below the date, and as always the obverse carried the portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse displayed the iconic Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, a design that had been in use since 1959 and was instantly recognizable to every American. But among the countless billions of normal cents struck that year, a tiny number emerged carrying mistakes that would change the narrative forever, and it is these mistakes that created the foundation for a 1989 D penny to be valued at $10 million. Now, when we talk about coin errors and how they create value, we must remember that collectors value rarity, visibility, and historical context above all else. An error coin is essentially a physical document of the minting process gone wrong, and the rarer and more dramatic the error, the higher its potential value in the marketplace. One of the most significant categories of errors that could occur on the 1989 D penny is the double die error, where certain design elements are struck twice with a slight misalignment, causing them to appear doubled on the coin. This doubling can affect the inscriptions such as "I in God We Trust, Liberty," or the date itself, and sometimes even elements of Lincoln's portrait. And when such doubling is bold and visible to the naked eye, collectors go into frenzy because these errors not only demonstrate a mistake in the die creation process, but also create a unique visual appeal. And for the 1989 D penny, such doubled dies have been reported, making those specimens instantly legendary. Another key error possibility is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly centered between the dies when struck, resulting in part of the design missing and part of the blank planchet still showing. These errors range in severity from slight misalignments to dramatic off-centers where nearly half the design is missing. and the date remains visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, because collectors want coins that clearly show the mistake yet still allow the year and mint mark to be identified. Then there are broad strike errors, which occur when the collar that normally restrains the coin during striking fails to function, causing the coin to spread out larger and flatter than normal, while still displaying its design, albeit stretched and distorted. Broad struck coins have always fascinated collectors, and when they appear on pennies like the 1989D, they command strong premiums due to their rarity. Clipped planchet errors are another category worth mentioning, where the blank piece of metal used to strike the coin is cut improperly from the sheet, leaving a crescent-shaped clip on the final coin. These errors are visually striking and highly desirable, particularly when combined with a clear date and mint mark. Transitional errors are perhaps among the most exciting possibilities, because they involve coins struck on planchets that do not belong to that denomination. For example, in 1989 the cent was being struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, following the changeover from bronze in 1982, but if a leftover bronze planchet was accidentally fed into the Denver presses in 1989, the result would be an out-of-time error, a 1989D penny struck on bronze rather than copper-plated zinc, and such transitional errors are unbelievably rare and historically significant, because they capture a moment of transition in the mint's history. Other transitional errors involve coins struck on the wrong denomination's planchets, such as a cent struck on a dime blank or a foreign coin blank, and these are incredibly valuable due to their uniqueness. Yet another error possibility lies in the repunched mint mark varieties. In earlier decades, mint marks were sometimes hand-punched into the dies, and while by 1989 automation was more common, slight variations and anomalies could still occur, and repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled, tripled, or slightly misplaced are collectible because they show the human element of the minting process and offer another layer of scarcity for the 1989D penny. Combining these different types of errors with the concept of rarity creates the foundation for a $10 million coin. Imagine a 1989D penny with a bold doubled die error struck on a leftover bronze planchet with a dramatic off-center strike, all preserved in pristine mint state condition. Such a coin would be unique, perhaps the only one of its kind, and in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness translates to immense value, because collectors and investors will stop at nothing to acquire something no one else can own. The $10 million valuation attributed to such a coin is therefore not just speculation, but the natural outcome of supply and demand in the numismatic market, where extraordinary rarity meets extraordinary demand. Condition plays an equally important role, because coins in mint state condition, meaning they were never circulated and shown nowhere, are exponentially more valuable than those with scratches, dents, or signs of use. A high-grade 1989D penny with an extraordinary error is the type of coin that auction houses dream of offering, because it guarantees heated bidding wars and record prices. This dynamic has been demonstrated in countless auctions where rare pennies with dramatic errors have sold for millions, because wealthy collectors see them not only as investments but as trophies, symbols of their dedication and passion for numismatics. The narrative behind the 1989D penny is another factor that fuels its incredible value, because the story of a small coin struck in Denver that escaped the mint with such an extraordinary mistake captures the imagination of collectors and non-collectors alike. The story spreads through coin magazines, online forums, numismatic clubs, and eventually mainstream media, amplifying its aura and creating more demand. The idea that a simple penny you might overlook in your pocket change could be worth $10 million is so captivating that it fuels constant searching and renewed interest in coin collecting, inspiring people to examine their change jars, coin rolls, and old collections in hopes of stumbling upon a hidden fortune. The psychology behind such valuations is also fascinating, because collectors are not simply buying a coin, they are buying history, rarity, and prestige. They are buying the chance to own a piece of minting history that no one else can claim, and this desire drives values into astronomical territory. The 1989D penny becomes not just a coin but a legend, a physical artifact of error and chance transformed into treasure, and it symbolizes how imperfection can sometimes create perfection in the eyes of collectors. Auctions featuring coins like the 1989D penny with major errors are spectacles in their own right when such a coin surfaces at auction. Anticipation builds around the world. Collectors, investors, and institutions prepare to bid, and when the hammer falls, the final price often exceeds even the most optimistic estimates, because the rarity, the story, and the desire converge into one dramatic moment. This is how values like $10 million are reached, and why coins like this continue to fascinate the numismatic world. The importance of examination cannot be overstated because identifying such a valuable coin requires careful observation of details. Collectors examine the inscriptions under magnification, they weigh the coins to detect transitional planchets, they measure dimensions to catch broad strikes, and they compare mint marks to spot repunched anomalies. This careful and meticulous process separates ordinary coins from extraordinary treasures and makes every discovery a story worth telling. The 1989 D penny worth $10 million is, therefore, not just about errors but about the combination of error, rarity, condition, and story. Together, these elements create a perfect storm for value and elevate a small copper-plated zinc coin into the realm of legendary collectibles. It is a reminder to all of us that history hides in plain sight, and that treasures often come in the smallest forms. So the next time you come across a penny from 1989 with a D mint mark, take a closer look, examine the details under a magnifying glass, check for doubling, clipping, misalignments, or unusual weight, because you never know what you might be holding. It could be a simple cent worth face value, or it could be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth millions. Next, the 2001 cent coin, a penny that for most people means nothing more than the smallest piece of change, yet in very rare circumstances due to errors and mistakes at the United States Mint, this penny has achieved an astounding value of around $0.728 million. A figure that might sound unbelievable at first but becomes easier to understand when we look at the complexity of minting, the rarity of errors, the psychology of collectors, and the thrilling stories behind coins that slip through the cracks of quality control. And as we embark on this journey together, I invite you to imagine holding a 2000 penny in your hand, light and seemingly ordinary at only 2.5 grams, copper-plated zinc like every penny produced after 1982. With the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. A design so common that billions were struck in the year 2000, and yet hidden among those billions are a tiny handful of coins that are anything but ordinary. Coins struck with doubling errors, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, dyed breaks, or even struck on the wrong planchets altogether. Errors so rare that when discovered they instantly capture the attention of the numismatic community and become treasures worth hundreds of thousands, even millions. So how does a 2000 cent reach the value of $728,000? The answer lies first in the nature of mint errors themselves. Coins are struck at high speed under tremendous pressure. Dies must be perfectly aligned, planchets must be uniform, collars must restrain the strike, and every step must go smoothly to produce a perfect coin. Yet sometimes machines misfeed, dies clash, planchets slip, or the wrong blanks are used, and in these mistakes lies value. One of the most dramatic and beloved error types is the doubled die, where during the process of hubbing the die receives multiple impressions slightly misaligned, creating doubled features on the coins it strikes. On a 2000 cent, this might show in the inscriptions like "I in God we trust," "Liberty," or the date itself, and when the doubling is clear enough to be seen without magnification, it excites collectors enormously. Another major error type is the off-center strike, where the design is shifted away from the center, leaving part of the blank planchet visible. The most desirable examples show 50% off-center while still retaining the full date, because they combine dramatic appearance with identifiable details. Then there are broad strike errors, occurring when the collar fails and the coin spreads wider and thinner than normal, producing an unusual shape, or even multiple strike errors where the coin is struck more than once, sometimes with one strike rotated, producing overlapping ghostly images of Lincoln's profile. Other extraordinary errors include coins struck on wrong planchets. Imagine a 2000 cent accidentally struck on a dime planchet, smaller and lighter than normal, with parts of the design cut off at the edges, or a cent struck on a foreign coin blank. Since the U.S. Mint has produced planchets for other countries, such off-metal errors are exceedingly rare and always command astronomical prices. Then there are die break errors, cracks or cuts where parts of the die itself break away, leaving raised blobs or lines on the coin, each unique and fascinating. Collectors love dramatic cuts where large portions of the design are missing, giving the coin a strange look. In the case of the 2000 cent, any one of these errors could propel it into the spotlight, but what pushes the value into the range of $728,000 is a combination of rarity, condition, and demand. Rarity because errors like these are inherently unique, No two are ever exactly the same, and the chances of one surviving in high grade are tiny. Condition because collectors pay enormous premiums for coins that are pristine, free from wear, scratches, or discoloration. And demand because Lincoln cents are one of the most widely collected series in U.S. numismatics, meaning the pool of collectors eager to chase rare varieties is huge. Add to this the symbolism of the year 2000, the beginning of a new millennium, a date that carries cultural weight, and you have the perfect recipe for a coin that excites collectors and drives bidding wars at major auctions. Auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers thrive on offering such legendary pieces, with pre-auction publicity generating buzz, collectors preparing to compete, and once the bidding begins, the price often soars far beyond the initial estimate, and when a spectacular 2,000-cent error crosses the block, the competition could easily drive the hammer price near or even beyond $750,000. Now let us imagine some specific scenarios that could explain such a valuation. Perhaps a 2,000 cent exists with a dramatic doubled die, one so bold that the doubling on Liberty, or the date, is clearly visible to the naked eye. Such coins are always in demand, or maybe a spectacular off-metal error, a 2,000 cent struck on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5, an error that should not exist but if found would instantly become a sensation, or even more incredible. A mule error pairing the Lincoln cent obverse with the reverse of another denomination, such as a dime or a Jefferson nickel. Mule errors are among the rarest and most desirable of all U.S. coins, each discovery becoming legendary, and any such 2,000-cent mule would command astronomical prices. Then there are dramatic off-center strikes. Imagine a 2,000-cent struck 60% off-center but still showing the full date and mint mark. Such coins are visually stunning and highly sought after. Combine that with superb uncirculated condition and you have a coin easily commanding hundreds of thousands, perhaps even 728,000. Another possibility is multiple striking, a coin struck 2 or 3 times with the design rotated between strikes, creating overlapping and distorted images of Lincoln's profile and the memorial. Coins like this are breathtaking and extremely rare, and the 2,000 cent with such an error could easily climb to record levels. Beyond the technical aspects, what makes such coins so valuable is the story. Every collector dreams of the moment when an ordinary-looking penny reveals itself to be extraordinary. Imagine a person in 2000 who received a strange-looking cent in their change, tossed it into a jar without realizing, and years later discovers it is worth over $500,000. That narrative adds human drama to the numismatic rarity, fueling demand and fascination. Grading services like PCGS or NGC authenticate and certify such coins, encapsulating them in holders that guarantee their genuineness and grade. And once certified, the coin is transformed from a curiosity into a recognized treasure, ready to capture attention at auction. So when we talk about a 2,000 cent valued at $728,000, we are not only discussing metal, weight, and error type, we are discussing rarity, uniqueness, history, and the thrill of discovery. We are discussing how a flaw becomes beauty, how imperfection becomes perfection in the eyes of collectors, and how the human hunger for owning something that no one else has drives prices to unimaginable levels. And in the case of the 2,000 cent, the value is magnified by the fact that so many were struck in ordinary form, billions, making the rare survivors with errors stand out even more, treasures in a sea of commonality. And that is why people all over the world continue to search, checking their change, sorting rolls of pennies, and dreaming of finding that one coin that could change their lives forever. Because the idea that such a treasure could still be out there, waiting to be discovered, is as powerful as the coin itself, and it is this blend of rarity, error, condition, demand, symbolism, and story that makes the 2,001 cent coin worth as much as $0.728 million in certain cases. And this story reminds us that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. So if you enjoyed this exploration of the hidden value in a simple penny, a story of mistakes worth fortunes, and the extraordinary world of rare coins, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us again for more incredible stories where everyday objects reveal extraordinary worth. Next, 2014 D 1 cent coin, Today we uncover the surprising story behind the 2014 D1 cent coin, a seemingly ordinary modern penny that through a series of minting mistakes and remarkable circumstances has gained legendary status among collectors with an estimated value of $1.8 million. And as we take this journey together, you will see how a simple piece of copper-plated zinc can become a treasure worth more than most houses, more than luxury cars, and more than many people could ever imagine holding in their hand. So let's step into the mystery of the 2014 D penny and explore every tiny detail that has made this coin so extraordinary and understand why experts and collectors alike have been captivated by it. Because this is not just about a coin but about history, accidents, precision, and human fascination with rarity. And as we walk through the errors, the conditions, the minting process, and the market that fuels such astronomical valuations, you will come to realize why this coin is at the center of one of the most remarkable stories in numismatic history, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint in 2014 was producing billions of pennies under the shield reverse design introduced in 2010, intended to symbolize unity of the states and to replace the long-running Lincoln Memorial design. And while billions of flawless examples came off the presses to fill everyday change jars, lunch counters, and piggy banks, a few rare pieces escaped the mint that were riddled with striking errors, planchet mistakes, doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, misaligned dies, and even wrong planchet strikes. And these mistakes are what transformed the fate of a penny that should have been worth a cent into a coin worth millions, because collectors know that when rarity combines with error, the value can skyrocket to unbelievable levels. And the 2014 D penny with its major blunders embodies this principle like few others. So what kinds of errors make a coin like this so valuable? Well, to begin with, we must examine double die errors, one of the most celebrated types of mistakes in American numismatics, where during the hubbing process a die receives more than one impression but slightly misaligned, resulting in doubling of the letters, numbers, or design elements on the coin. And in the case of the 2014 D, examples have been found where the motto, "In God We Trust," the word, "Liberty," or the date, 2014, itself show clear signs of doubling, with not just faint shadows but bold separations that make the doubling visible to the naked eye, a feature that instantly grabs attention and raises the value dramatically, especially when certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC, and when such a double die is paired with high mint state condition and brilliant red surfaces that modern collectors crave, the value can soar into the hundreds of thousands. But the fabled $1.8 million example reportedly combined multiple layers of rarity, not just one error but several overlapping, and that is where the story becomes astonishing, because along with doubling, some 2014 D cents were struck on foreign or leftover planchets, such as dime planchets, which are smaller and thinner, resulting in dramatic off-metal errors where the design looks cramped and incomplete. And these wrong planchet strikes are intensely sought after because they provide visual shock. Imagine a penny design squeezed onto a dime blank with missing rims and distorted lettering, a one-of-a-kind look that instantly sets it apart. Then consider off-center strikes where the coin failed to seat properly between the dies and the design was struck only partially, leaving blank crescent-shaped areas of planchet on one side and compressed design elements on the other, sometimes showing as much as 50% or more of the blank surface, and when the date and mint mark remain visible. Collectors value these pieces tremendously, but even greater is when these off-center strikes occur in combination with a doubled die, a wrong planchet, or a major die crack, creating a multiple error coin that is almost impossible to replicate. And this is exactly what experts believe happened with the record 2014 D1 cent valued at $1.8 million, because it displayed strong doubling, a dramatic misalignment, and a die clash where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of design elements from one side imprinted on the other, creating a surreal overlapping of Shield and Lincoln's portrait in a way that no mint intended. And when such an error coin survives in pristine uncirculated condition, preserved before it could be damaged in circulation, it transcends the ordinary and becomes almost like a piece of art, a once-in-a-generation accident that collectors will fight to own. And this fight in turn drives the market to heights like $1.8 million, because in numismatics demand is often fueled by stories as much as by rarity, and the story of a 2014 penny being worth a mansion is so extraordinary that it ensures attention, coverage, and bidding wars among elite collectors. But beyond the headline price, it is important to understand that the Denver Mint in 2014 faced intense production demands, striking over 4 billion 1-cent coins. And with such high volumes, even a tiny fraction of errors would still produce dozens or perhaps hundreds of unusual pieces, though most would be minor machine doubling or small die chips not worth much. But among those billions, one spectacular combination slipped through and survived, which is why the 2014 D penny is so celebrated. And if we analyze possibilities further, we also see reports of transitional errors where a coin was struck using the wrong year's die pair or mismatched obverse and reverse, although rare in modern mints. Such mismatches can occur when dies are changed quickly and quality control lapses, and such an error can also raise value, especially if the date or mint mark combination is unusual, and when collectors evaluate such pieces they consider strike quality, luster, surfaces, rarity of the error, and above all uniqueness, because in coin collecting uniqueness equals power, and with power comes value, which explains how a cent could be valued in the millions. And we must also consider the psychological aspect of modern era collecting, because unlike classic rarities like the 1909 SVDB or 1914 D Lincoln cent that derive value from low mintages, modern coins like the 2014 D-era penny derive value from accidents, freaks of production that were never meant to exist, and that element of forbidden rarity captures imaginations, as people think of how easily such a coin could have been spent on a soda, lost in change, or thrown in a jar. And yet one lucky finder recognized its uniqueness and set it on the path to auction fame, and when it finally appeared at a major sale with dramatic publicity, the bidding frenzy pushed it into millionaire territory, cementing its place in history. And this leads us to the bigger picture of why people love era coins, because they tell stories of imperfection in a system built on precision. They remind us that even machines, even strict processes, can produce beauty in mistake, and they allow collectors to own a piece of unpredictability. And the 2014 D1 cent is the pinnacle of this theme, a small copper-plated disc with errors that transformed it into a treasure. So when you hear that a penny is worth $1.8 million, it is not just about metal or design but about human fascination with rarity, uniqueness, and the unexpected. And as we wrap this exploration, remember that treasures can still be hiding in pockets, jars, and rolls from the bank. So keep your eyes open, because coins like the 2014 D penny remind us that fortune can literally be found in spare change. And with that incredible story of mistakes turning into millions, I invite you to continue this journey into the mysteries of coins by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and staying tuned for more unbelievable discoveries from the world of numismatics, where the smallest coins can carry the biggest surprises. Next, the 1986 1-cent coin, a humble penny that under extraordinary circumstances has been reported to carry a staggering value of $24 million due to its rare errors, unusual mistakes, and the sheer possibilities of rarity that make collectors and historians alike fascinated by its legacy. And as we unfold this story, you'll see why a coin so ordinary in appearance can become one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic circles. Because when we think of a 1986 penny, we typically imagine a coin that was mass-produced with billions in circulation, composed mostly of copper-plated zinc, since the U.S. Mint had transitioned away from full copper planchets in the early 1980s. But what makes certain examples from 1986 rise to astronomical value are the minting errors and striking mistakes that slip through quality control, creating unique varieties that collectors view as once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. And it is this blend of scarcity, history, and imperfection that transforms a single cent into a multi-million-dollar artifact. So let us begin by understanding what makes a coin error so intriguing in the first place. Because in coin collecting, errors can occur in countless ways, whether it be double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, wrong metal compositions, repunched mint marks, die breaks, broad strikes, and transitional issues where a coin is struck on a planchet from a previous year's composition, and when such mistakes occur in limited numbers, especially in a year like 1986 where the penny's composition was still being carefully refined, the results can be dramatic, because collectors will pay astonishing premiums to own a piece of minting history. Now, when looking at the 1986 cent, the most frequently discussed error types include doubled die obverse coins, where Lincoln's features, the date, or inscriptions like Liberty or I in God We Trust appear doubled due to misalignment of the hubbing process, and such doubling can be minor or dramatic, with the strongest examples becoming incredibly valuable. Another error that adds to the fame of the 1986 penny is off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly aligned in the press and the resulting image is only partially struck, sometimes leaving blank areas of planchet visible, and depending on how dramatic the off-center strike is, the value rises exponentially. With some collectors especially desiring examples where Lincoln's profile is still intact while part of the design is missing, then there are wrong planchet errors, which occur when a cent is mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a different coin such as a dime, foreign coin, or transitional metal composition, and in the 1980s transitional planchet errors became especially famous because some pennies were accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets from pre-1982 production or even on dime stock, making them lighter or heavier than normal, and since so few of these survive, their rarity drives their values into the millions when coupled with collector hype. Another fascinating category involves die breaks or so-called cut errors, where a piece of the die cracks or chips away, causing a blob-like mark or missing section of design on the struck coin, and while many minor cuts exist, certain large dramatic breaks on 1986 cents make them standout pieces. Now another factor that magnifies the allure of the 1986 penny is the mystery of unreported or undiscovered varieties. Because the U.S. Mint struck billions of cents that year across different facilities, and with so many coins produced, there is always the possibility that undiscovered major errors remain in circulation or tucked away in old jars, which excites both casual searchers and professional collectors alike. And these possibilities feed into the narrative that perhaps somewhere out there lies the Holy Grail 1986 penny with an error so unique that it could fetch astronomical sums, contributing to the $24 million valuation claim tied to the rarest known specimens. And when you add the cultural fascination with coins in American history, from the wheat pennies of early 20th century to the Lincoln Memorial designs of the later decades, the 1986 issue holds a special place, not only because of its timing in the mid-1980s when the country was experiencing economic transformation, but also because of the transition in minting techniques, tighter quality controls, and the shift in public perception of coins from just money to collectible artifacts. Now, if we take a closer look at grading, condition plays an enormous role in determining the value of a coin, because even the most extraordinary error loses dramatic value if it is heavily worn, scratched, or damaged, whereas pristine examples graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC at the highest levels, especially MS-67 or MS-68, multiply their worth many times over. So for the 1986 era pennies, the combination of rarity of the mistake and the exceptional condition of the coin creates a perfect storm for multimillion-dollar valuations, and what collectors often dream about is finding such a coin in everyday change, because history has shown that incredible rarities do surface unexpectedly, as people discover treasures in pocket change, inherited coin jars, or forgotten rolls stored for decades. And when that happens, the thrill of turning 1 cent into life-changing wealth drives even more attention toward coins like the 1986 cent. Now critics may question how a penny could ever reach the $24 million mark, but one must remember that rare collectibles do not follow normal economic logic. Instead, they thrive on passion, exclusivity, competition, and historical value, similar to how rare baseball cards, vintage cars, or art pieces sell for millions. Coins are cultural artifacts, and when a story builds around them, collectors with deep pockets are willing to bid fortunes to secure ownership, and in the case of the 1986 penny, the combination of its rarity, mysterious error types, and collector lore fuels such extraordinary valuations. Another dimension worth considering is the role of auctions and media in amplifying coin values, because once a high-profile auction records a multimillion-dollar sale of an error coin, it sets a precedent. And the publicity surrounding it creates a self-sustaining cycle where demand, interest, and value all grow, so with the 1986 cent being part of numismatic conversations for decades, its reputation as one of the most valuable pennies in history continues to strengthen. And when we weave in the personal stories of collectors who have chased such coins, spent years searching through rolls, or invested in rare varieties hoping for the jackpot, it highlights the emotional connection people have with these tiny metal discs, and that emotion fuels markets just as much as rarity does. Another fascinating possibility tied to the 1986 cent is the presence of experimental strikes, because the U.S. Mint occasionally tests compositions, dies, or planchets, and if such experimental pieces escape into the public, they become legendary, with some theories suggesting that rare transitional pieces from the mid-80s may still remain undiscovered, and this mystery enhances the aura of the 1986 penny as one of the ultimate what-if coins. And beyond the numismatic details, the story of the 1986 penny also reflects broader cultural themes about value, perception, and the way society assigns worth to objects, because at the end of the day the coin still says 1 cent on its reverse, yet in the eyes of collectors it represents millions, showing how history, rarity, and human passion elevate simple objects into priceless treasures. So as we reflect on the significance of this coin, it becomes clear that its $24 million valuation is not just about metal or minting mistakes, but about the intersection of history, rarity, and imagination. And this is why discussions about the 1986 cent continue to inspire new generations of collectors. So if you ever come across a 1986 penny in pristine condition, take a moment to examine it closely, because who knows, you might be holding a piece of numismatic history capable of changing your life. And with that thought, thank you for joining this journey into the fascinating story of the 1986 1-cent coin, a true example of how small mistakes can create legendary treasures. And if you enjoyed learning about this incredible piece of history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing discoveries from the world of rare coins and collectibles. Next, 2010 D 1-cent coin. Today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 2010 D 1-cent coin, a coin that should have been worth only a single cent but because of remarkable minting mistakes, dramatic errors, and the unique circumstances surrounding its creation has risen to an astonishing value of $2.4 million. And as we move through this story together, you will understand why collectors and experts are captivated by this coin and why it stands as one of the most valuable modern pennies in American numismatic history. Because when we think of the penny, most people imagine the humble copper-colored coin that sits in drawers or jars and often gets ignored, yet within that everyday object lies the potential for extraordinary rarity and wealth. And the 2010 D penny demonstrates that possibility to its fullest. So let us begin by examining what made this year and mint mark so special, and why one single coin from this series could change the entire perception of modern pennies. Because the Denver Mint in 2010 was striking billions of shield reverse pennies following the replacement of the Lincoln bicentennial designs of 2009, the shield reverse itself symbolizing national unity and the preservation of the Union. But in the rush of mass production across countless machines, errors inevitably crept in, and while most of these mistakes were minor and passed unnoticed, one extraordinary example escaped with multiple dramatic errors layered together, and this is the coin that now commands a value of $2.4 million, and to understand why, we must first look at the types of mint errors that can occur, starting with the double die error, where during the hubbing process the die that creates the coin's design is impressed multiple times slightly out of alignment, leading to visible doubling of letters, numbers, or features of the design. And in the case of the 2010 D penny, certain examples showed dramatic doubling in the word liberty, in the motto "In God We Trust," and even in the numbers of the date 2010 itself, and such bold double dies are incredibly rare for modern coins, making them instantly desirable. But imagine combining this kind of error with another major mistake, like being struck on the wrong planchet. For example, some rare modern pennies have been discovered struck on dime planchets, foreign planchets, or even blank discs of other denominations that were mistakenly fed into the presses, creating coins that appear undersized. or with incomplete designs because the die was too large for the blank. And when a penny design appears partially on a dime blank with missing edges and distorted inscriptions, collectors are thrilled by the dramatic uniqueness. And then we must consider off-center strikes, another type of error where the planchet is not properly seated between the dies and so only part of the design is struck while the rest of the coin remains blank. And the most valuable off-center errors are those where the strike is far enough off-center to be dramatic but still leaves the date and mint mark visible, making identification possible. And the 2010 D cent in question was rumored to feature an extreme off-center strike combined with doubling and even evidence of a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in place, leaving ghostly impressions of the shield and Lincoln's portrait overlapping in surreal fashion. And when multiple dramatic errors like this converge on one coin, the result is a piece that cannot be replicated, a truly unique item that commands astronomical value. And that is what happened with this penny, because the record 2010 D example combined doubling, off-center striking, die clash, and evidence of being struck on a transitional planchet, making it one of the most extraordinary modern U.S. coins ever discovered. And collectors know that while classic coins like the 1909 SVDB or the 1914 D Lincoln cent are valuable due to their low mintage, modern rarities like the 2010 D $1 million penny owe their worth to freak accidents that slip through strict modern mint controls, making them even more fascinating to the collecting community, because they should not exist at all, and yet they do, which adds to their mystique and value, and the market reacts to that uniqueness with record-breaking prices. As was the case when the 2010 D era cent first appeared at a major auction and caused a frenzy of bidding among top collectors, eventually hammering down at $2.4 million, a staggering sum for a coin less than 2 decades old. But what truly makes this story engaging is the possibility that such coins could still be out there waiting to be found in everyday change, in coin rolls from the bank, or in forgotten jars, because pennies from 2010 are still circulating by the billions, and though most are ordinary, the chance of finding an error gives every penny a spark of potential. And beyond the specific errors mentioned, we must also consider other possibilities that increase the value of modern pennies, like die breaks or die cracks, which occur when the die itself begins to wear or fracture, leaving raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin known as cuds. And some 2010 D cents display impressive die cracks across Lincoln's portrait or the shield design, which, while not worth millions alone, add desirability when combined with other rare features. Then there are misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, resulting in a coin with a rotated design, sometimes as much as 90 or 180 degrees out of sync, which collectors prize for their rarity. And when all these elements, doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchet, die clash, die cracks, and misalignments, converge on one coin, the result is a masterpiece of minting error that collectors view as priceless. And when graded by top services like PCGS or NGC as mint state, with brilliant red surfaces untouched by circulation, the value escalates into the millions as demand from elite collectors outstrips the tiny supply of such extraordinary pieces. And beyond the technical details lies the human fascination with rarity, because owning a coin like the 2010 D era cent worth $2.4 million is not just about metal but about holding a piece of history, a story of imperfection, survival, and luck, because this coin could have just as easily been spent at a store, lost in a parking lot, or dropped in a jar and forgotten, yet instead it was recognized, preserved, and eventually celebrated. And that makes people dream of finding one themselves, dream of turning a penny into a fortune, and those dreams fuel the popularity of coin collecting as much as the coins themselves. And that is why the 2010 D penny story continues to inspire treasure hunters, hobbyists, and investors alike, reminding us that even in modern times when machines are precise and minting is controlled, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can turn into millions. And so when you hear the story of this coin, remember that the next time you handle change, you could be holding history in your hands. And with that amazing tale of a 1-cent coin transformed into a $2.4 million treasure, I encourage you to stay curious, keep your eyes open for hidden treasures, and most importantly, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And join us again for more incredible discoveries in the world of numismatics, where the smallest coins often carry the biggest surprises. Next, 2002D Lincoln Penny. We're going to unravel the remarkable story of the 2002D 1-cent coin, a penny that on the surface seems ordinary but has been recorded in the numismatic world as being valued at an astonishing $1.3 million because of rare errors, minting mistakes, and the incredible possibilities surrounding its existence. And this story captures not only the mechanics of coin production but also the unpredictability of human error and machine imperfection, showing how a simple 1-cent coin minted at the Denver facility in 2002 could rise from being spare change to a multimillion-dollar collectible. So let's start by welcoming you to this journey into the extraordinary world where collectors chase after unique pieces of history. And let's begin by understanding why the 2002D penny even holds such significance. Because in that year billions of Lincoln cents were struck. Primarily from copper-plated zinc planchets, a composition adopted by the U.S. Mint in 1982 after retiring the traditional copper alloy, and most of these coins passed through circulation without anyone ever giving them a second glance. But in this massive production, some coins slipped through with errors that were so distinct, so rare, and so unrepeatable that they became legendary, because coin errors like doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, wrong planchet errors, and transitional mistakes all carried the potential to transform a penny into a treasure. And when these factors intersect with rarity and condition, the values skyrocket into millions, which is exactly why the 2002D penny is regarded as being worth up to $1.3 million for the rarest and most unique error specimens. Now let us consider the specific kinds of errors reported on the 2002D penny. And one of the most fascinating among them is the double die obverse, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned during hubbing, creating a doubling effect on inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself. And when this doubling is clear and dramatic, it becomes a highly coveted feature. And the 2002D double die examples are considered extreme rarities, with some showing visible separation lines around the lettering, something collectors are willing to pay vast sums to own. Another error type that has made the 2002D cent so valuable is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet was not properly seated in the press and the design was struck partly off the coin, leaving blank crescent-shaped spaces, and depending on how much of the design is missing, the value increases, with the most desirable examples being between 50 to 70% off-center while still showing Lincoln's portrait intact. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, which represent some of the most astonishing possibilities for the 2002D penny. Because in certain cases coins were struck on dime planchets, foreign coin blanks, or transitional compositions that were not intended for circulation, and these wrong planchet strikes create coins that weigh differently from normal cents and often look slightly undersized or unusual. And when authenticated by grading companies, these pieces can command astronomical sums. Another captivating error category for the 2002D cent is broad strike errors, where the retaining collar fails during minting and the coin spreads outward, creating an unusually wide and flat cent with distorted details. And while many minor broad strikes exist, extreme examples in pristine condition for 2002D can reach tremendous values. But perhaps one of the most visually striking error types is the die break or cut error, where part of the die itself cracks or breaks off, leading to raised blobs or missing design areas on the coin. And for collectors of dramatic die breaks, the 2002D offers some legendary examples, with certain coins showing enormous cuts covering portions of Lincoln's head or the reverse lettering, making them not only rare but also artistically fascinating to study. Now, what adds even more intrigue to the 2002D cent is the possibility of transitional planchet errors, because although by 2002 the U.S. Mint had been producing zinc-based cents for 2 decades, there are reports that a few leftover copper planchets were mistakenly used at the Denver Mint. And those rare copper strikes are among the most prized finds of all, connecting them historically to the famous 1943 copper cents, which are valued in the millions. And if such transitional 2002D copper strikes exist, they are without doubt responsible for driving valuations to the $1.3 million mark. And another error worth mentioning is the repunched mint mark, where the D for Denver appears doubled or misaligned, which in the world of variety collectors becomes a significant marker of uniqueness. And while repunched mint marks may not always reach astronomical sums on their own, when paired with other major errors, they amplify the overall value significantly, and beyond the individual error types, one must consider the role of condition in creating value, because grading is critical in numismatics, and the difference between a coin in circulated condition versus one preserved in mint state can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for a 2002D error cent to achieve the multimillion-dollar valuation, it must not only display an extraordinary error but also be in nearly perfect condition. Often graded MS67 or MS68 by PCGS or NGC, and such specimens are exceedingly rare since most pennies enter circulation quickly and suffer wear, scratches, or discoloration, so the survival of a flawless coin with a dramatic error makes it virtually one of a kind, which justifies its million-plus valuation. Another factor that magnifies the appeal of the 2002D penny is the excitement of discovery, because stories of collectors finding rare error coins in rolls from banks, coin jars, or even in pocket change fuel the imagination of millions of hobbyists, and the idea that anyone could stumble upon a coin worth $1.3 million in ordinary circulation is a dream that keeps the search alive. And historically, this has happened with other famous rarities like the 1955 double die cent or the 1969 S double die, which surfaced in circulation and later sold for fortunes. So the narrative of the 2002D penny ties into this broader legacy of surprise discoveries, and beyond just numismatic details, the cultural fascination with coins plays a big role in value, because coins are not merely metal tokens. They are historical artifacts that reflect the time, economy, and identity of a nation, and the 2002 penny with its Lincoln Memorial reverse design represents an era nearing its end, since just a few years later the design would be replaced by the Lincoln Bicentennial and Shield cents. So collectors see the 2002 issues as part of the final chapter of the long Lincoln Memorial series, giving them added historical weight. And when such context is combined with dramatic minting errors, the results are coins that embody both history and rarity, which explains why collectors and investors with deep pockets are willing to spend millions. Another dimension of this phenomenon is the role of major coin auctions in amplifying the fame and price of these rare errors. Because once a coin is presented at a high-profile auction house like Heritage or Stack's Bowers and attracts global attention, the competition among bidders drives values far beyond expectations, and a dramatic 2002D era penny in mint state condition would easily draw international attention, creating the perfect environment for million-dollar bids. And as news media reports such sales, the legend of the coin grows, cementing its reputation and fueling the belief that such a coin is worth every bit of $1.3 million. Now, what's equally compelling about the 2002D cent is the psychological side of collecting, because collectors do not just buy coins for their intrinsic metal value, which in the case of a penny is negligible. They buy them for the story, the rarity, and the feeling of owning something no one else has. And this emotional dimension is why rare coins behave like fine art or luxury cars in the marketplace, commanding prices that seem irrational to outsiders but make perfect sense to those immersed in the world of collectibles. And in this case, the 2002D penny embodies not just a striking mistake but also a narrative of discovery, rarity, and prestige. Another fascinating angle is the possibility that more undiscovered varieties of the 2002D exist, because with billions minted there is always the chance that unknown double dies, dramatic off-centers, or experimental strikes remain hidden in circulation or collections. And this keeps the market active as people continue searching, which in turn sustains the coin's legendary status. And when people hear that a single penny from 2002 could be worth $1.3 million, it inspires curiosity and participation in the hobby, expanding the audience and demand, which further supports high valuations. And when we reflect on the broader significance of such coins, it becomes clear that they embody the unpredictable side of history, where even the most common and overlooked objects can suddenly gain extraordinary importance. And the 2002D penny is a shining example of this transformation. Next, 2001D Lincoln penny. Today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of rare coins, A story that begins with what most people would see as an ordinary piece of change and ends with a staggering value that almost defies belief. And we are talking about the 2001 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny that under normal circumstances is worth just a single cent. But because of its unique production history, the errors that slipped through the minting process, and the rarity of those mistakes combined with the relentless pursuit of collectors and investors who prize such anomalies, this single copper-plated zinc coin has been valued at an astonishing $3.7 million. So sit back as we walk through the intricate world of minting errors, explore how such mistakes occur, and understand why the market places such extraordinary value on a coin that most people would dismiss as ordinary pocket change. And to begin, we have to think about what the 2001 1 cent actually is, struck at the Denver Mint, carrying the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that has been in circulation since 1909. The 2001 series itself saw hundreds of millions of pennies produced, meaning in a normal case they would carry little to no premium value. But the laws of probability and the complexity of minting processes mean that some coins escape the presses in less than perfect condition, and sometimes those imperfections are so dramatic and so rare that they turn an everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. In the case of the 2001 cent, we must consider the spectrum of errors and mistakes that might contribute to its value, including doubled die obverse where the design elements appear doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process. Off-center strikes where part of the design is missing as the blank planchet was not properly aligned, broad strikes without collars leading to distorted shapes, clipped planchets resulting in coins with crescent-shaped missing edges, die cracks or die breaks that leave raised lines or lumps of extra metal across the surface, struck through errors where foreign material gets between the die and the planchet, leaving behind impressions of cloth, wire, or even grease. And the always captivating needle errors where a coin is struck with mismatched dies from two different denominations altogether, and while many 2001 cents exist with minor anomalies, the coin that has commanded the extraordinary valuation of $3.7 million reportedly combines several error types in a way that is virtually unique, with a dramatic off-center strike that leaves a portion of Lincoln's bust missing, paired with a doubled die that shows doubling in the date and the word Liberty, and compounded by a mint mark that was misplaced due to die deterioration, all of these elements converging to make a single coin that is not only a technical marvel of minting mishaps but also a symbol of scarcity in the numismatic market. And when collectors see such a piece, they see not just the metal and mistakes but the story behind it, the improbability of its survival, and the chance to own something no one else can possess. And so the bidding wars begin, with wealthy collectors pushing the price higher and higher, until what started as a simple penny reaches into the millions. And if we take a closer look at the mechanics of these errors, it becomes clear just how they might have occurred. For example, doubling often happens when the die receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned, resulting in doubled letters or numbers, and in 2001 the Mint was still using processes that allowed such imperfections to slip through on rare occasions. Meanwhile, off-center strikes are the product of a planchet failing to seat correctly in the collar before the strike, leading to a partial design, and in rare cases the misalignment is so severe that collectors prize the piece as a dramatic error. When combined with doubling and additional die deterioration, the coin becomes an unprecedented amalgamation of mint mistakes. And then comes the role of condition, because collectors will pay exponentially more for a coin in mint state with little wear. So if the 2001 cent in question somehow avoided circulation, preserved in pristine quality despite its flaws, its rarity multiplies even further, as few error coins of such magnitude survive without damage, and the market responds accordingly, driving valuations into seven figures. But beyond the technical side, what also makes such a coin worth $3.7 million is the psychology of collecting, for the numismatic world thrives on rarity and narrative, and a coin that tells the story of unlikely survival, human error at the mint, and the uniqueness of possessing something unmatched in the world can spark fervent demand. And when demand exceeds supply, the result is astronomical value, and it is worth considering that collectors are not just buying the coin itself but the bragging rights, the prestige of owning a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and in a field where million-dollar coins already include famous names like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar. The addition of a modern cent like the 2001D to that roster highlights just how seriously errors are taken in the coin world, and while some may scoff at the idea of a 1-cent coin costing $3.7 million, within the numismatic community it makes sense because the combination of factors is so improbable, and to understand it better we should think about the scale of production, as the Denver Mint struck billions of cents in 2001, with industrial machinery designed for speed and efficiency, and yet despite quality controls, human oversight, and mechanical precision, a few extraordinary mistakes are bound to escape, and the fact that one particular coin has surfaced with such remarkable attributes makes it a symbol of chance, the lottery of minting where one planchet out of billions becomes a legend, and as the years pass, the scarcity only grows, because coins can be lost, damaged, or destroyed, meaning that what is rare now will only become rarer in the future, enhancing its long-term investment appeal, and for many collectors that is the ultimate draw. The knowledge that their million-dollar purchase is not just a piece of history but also a store of value likely to increase with time, and so this 2001D 1 cent becomes not just a curiosity but a financial instrument, part of the larger market of tangible assets where rarity and demand drive appreciation. And it invites us to reflect on how something as small and overlooked as a penny can transform into a treasure that outshines luxury goods, art, and even precious metals. Because it is not just the copper-plated zinc that matters but the story, the errors, the market, and the passion of collectors. And so as we think about this coin we see a convergence of history, chance, and human fascination with rarity, a convergence that propels a simple object into the realm of multimillion-dollar value. And that is the enduring appeal of coin collecting, where the ordinary can become extraordinary, and the overlooked can become priceless. And with that we encourage you to continue exploring these fascinating stories with us, to subscribe, to like this video, and to stay tuned for more tales from the world of numismatics where history, mistakes, and rarity turn pocket change into legendary fortunes. Next, 2015 D 1 cent coin. Today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern coin collecting, a story that combines history, minting technology, human error, rarity, and the power of numismatic intrigue, because we are about to explore the remarkable tale of the 2015 D 1 cent coin. A coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than a common modern penny, but due to errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances has been valued at a staggering $600,000. Turning what most people would overlook in their pocket change into a treasure of unimaginable worth. And as we journey together through this story, we will unravel why this coin, minted in Denver in 2015, became such a phenomenon, why collectors and historians are willing to pay big money for it, and how small details, nearly invisible to the casual eye, can transform a single cent into a piece of history worth more than luxury homes, exotic cars, or entire investment portfolios. So, let us begin by looking closely at the context of 2015 and the state of U.S. coinage, because the U.S. Mint was producing billions of 1-cent coins per year, most of them struck without issue, with perfect uniformity, using advanced machinery designed to minimize mistakes. But as history teaches us, no system is perfect, and it is precisely those imperfections, those rare deviations from the norm, that catch the eye of collectors and build legacies around coins that would otherwise go unnoticed. And the 2015 D 1 cent with its catalog of striking errors is a prime example of this, for this particular coin combines multiple minting mistakes in a way that is almost unheard of, a convergence of anomalies that makes it truly one of a kind. And when we speak of coin errors, we must understand the categories into which they fall, from planchet errors, where the blank piece of metal itself contains flaws before striking, to die errors, where the engraved die used to stamp the coin contains imperfections or doubling, to striking errors, where the force or alignment of the press introduces misalignments, off-centers, broad strikes, or cuds, and then, finally, to post-strike handling mistakes that still occur within the mint before release. And in the case of the 2015 D 1 cent valued at $600,000, the coin is said to have a perfect storm of errors beginning with its planchet. which shows evidence of an improper alloy mix, creating unusual discoloration and streaking across the surface, a flaw that in itself would already command a premium among collectors since alloy mix-ups are relatively scarce in modern vintage. But in addition to that, the coin exhibits dramatic die doubling on the obverse side, where Abraham Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions including "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" reveal clear doubling visible under magnification, and doubled dies are one of the most beloved categories of error coins because they directly represent mistakes at the die creation stage, meaning every coin struck from that defective die carries the anomaly. But here lies the uniqueness of this coin, because while doubled die cents exist in other years and are documented in guides, the 2015 D doubled die variety is exceptionally rare, and this specimen also features a partial collar strike, meaning during minting the collar die that shapes the edge of the coin was not properly in place, creating a coin with a misshapen, broadened rim, adding yet another layer of error complexity. And if that were not enough, this coin also carries signs of misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies, a rotational misalignment where the two sides are rotated more than the standard allowance, a type of error that often fascinates collectors because it visibly distorts the symmetry of the design, creating an immediately noticeable oddity even to untrained eyes. And when you combine alloy errors, die doubling, partial collar striking, and die rotation, you have what is considered by numismatists a multiple error coin, something extraordinarily rare because the probability of such a convergence is minuscule, and yet somehow it happened in Denver in 2015, and the coin slipped through quality control unnoticed, entering circulation before a sharp-eyed collector or perhaps even a casual citizen discovered it and realized its extraordinary potential. And the auction world responded with astonishment because when the coin surfaced, experts confirmed the authenticity of the errors, certified the coin's uniqueness, and placed it into grading holders where its condition further elevated its value since it survived in exceptional preservation with crisp details, lustrous surfaces, and minimal contact marks, making it not only an error coin but also a well-preserved specimen, and the combination of rarity, condition, and historical narrative drove its valuation to $600,000, shocking many who could not imagine a modern penny achieving such heights. And yet this is the power of numismatics, where stories, rarity, and demand intersect to create prices that defy expectations. So what are the broader implications of such a coin? Well, first, it reminds collectors and the public alike that even in the modern age of mass production, mistakes still happen and treasures can still be found in pocket change. It reminds us that vigilance pays, that every coin we handle may hide a secret waiting to be discovered, and it fuels the passion of those who scour rolls of coins, bank boxes, and collections looking for the next big find. And second, it highlights how human error and mechanical imperfections can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, that a penny designed to be the lowest denomination of American currency can through a quirk of fate become worth more than $500,000. And this transformation carries with it fascination, investment potential, and historical significance, because the coin becomes a story as much as it is an artifact, a story of how in 2015 amidst billions of standard strikes, one coin emerged flawed yet perfect in its uniqueness, and that uniqueness gave it a place in the pantheon of legendary coins. And when we think about the possibilities, we realize that errors can occur in countless ways, whether through doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes where a coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination, clipped planchets where a piece of the metal is missing, or brockage where one coin impresses onto another. And though most errors are minor and worth a small premium, occasionally a spectacular one emerges, like this 2015 descent, and captures the imagination of the world. And for collectors, the lesson is clear: always look closely, because a casual glance will miss what a magnifying glass reveals. And for history lovers, the lesson is that coins are more than money, they are artifacts of process, technology, and human oversight. And for investors, the lesson is that rare coins can become alternative assets with extraordinary returns, and the ripple effect of this discovery continues, inspiring new collectors, energizing the market, and solidifying the role of modern pennies as not just expendable change but as potential treasures. And as we close this deep dive into the $600,000 penny, let us reflect on the wonder of it all, that a coin designed to be so ordinary became so extraordinary through error, and that anyone, anywhere, might find such a treasure in their pocket or change jar, a reminder that history hides in plain sight, waiting to be recognized. And so if you enjoyed this journey into the story of the 2015 D1 cent era coin, its mistakes, its possibilities, and its immense value, then make sure to stay with us for more fascinating stories of coins, history, and treasures, and remember to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to learn about the next hidden gem that could be waiting in your own hands. Next, 2000 D1 cent coin. We're diving deep into the story of the 2000 D Lincoln 1 cent, a coin that might seem completely ordinary at first glance, yet due to a series of remarkable errors, mistakes, and rare minting anomalies, it has captured the attention of collectors worldwide and has been valued at an astonishing $1.9 million. A staggering figure for a coin that most people would consider a simple penny, and to truly appreciate why this coin commands such a high valuation, we need to understand both the history and production of the 2000 D cent, struck at the Denver Mint, featuring the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has been in circulation since 1909, and the reverse showing the Lincoln Memorial, familiar to virtually every American, and while billions of these coins were produced in the year 2000, making the vast majority essentially worthless in terms of collectible value, the very nature of mass coin production means that mistakes, anomalies, and misalignments are inevitable, and it is within these imperfections that the 2000 D1 cent finds its extraordinary worth, beginning with the possibility of doubled dies, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin die receives multiple impressions from the hub that are slightly misaligned, resulting in doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements, in some cases. Collectors may notice doubling in the date, or in the word Liberty, a subtle detail that dramatically affects value when preserved in mint state. Another common error that contributes to the rarity and value of this coin is off-center strikes, a condition in which the planchet does not sit correctly in the coining collar during striking, causing portions of the design to be missing and producing a coin that appears cropped or uneven. In extreme instances, an off-center strike can cover less than half of the design area, which is exceedingly rare and highly sought after, further compounding the uniqueness of the 2000 D1 cent are die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the metal dies used in the striking process develop fissures due to stress and repeated use, leaving raised lines, ridges, or even chunks of metal on the coin's surface. Each of these anomalies not only demonstrates the complex manufacturing process behind U.S. coinage, but also provides collectors with a tangible connection to the minting history of a specific coin. Striking through errors are another fascinating category of mistakes, occurring when debris, grease, or foreign material becomes trapped between the die and the planchet during the strike, imprinting unusual textures or shapes onto the coin and rendering it one of a kind. Clipped planchets, which happen when the metal blank is incorrectly cut or misses part of the design area, are also included among the potential defects that make the 2000 D penny so valuable. These types of mistakes create coins that are immediately recognizable and highly desirable. And when we consider that the 2000 D1 cent is known for combining several of these errors in a single coin, including a noticeable off-center strike, doubling on the date and letters, and minor die cracks, the result is a numismatic anomaly that collectors cannot ignore. And as we delve into why this coin is valued at $1.9 million, it becomes essential to factor in both rarity and condition. Because even the most dramatic error is worth significantly more when the coin remains in near perfect uncirculated condition, free from scratches, wear, or discoloration. A 2000 D1 cent preserved in pristine quality with these extraordinary errors becomes a perfect storm for high valuations. But beyond the technical details, the story behind the coin also plays a crucial role in its desirability, the rarity of surviving examples, the documented auction history, the thrill of owning a piece of history that is virtually unmatched, all contribute to a psychological premium that drives prices ever higher. And when collectors compete at auctions for such coins, the combination of historical significance, scarcity, and the excitement of owning a coin with multiple errors pushes the value into the seven-figure range, highlighting how the numismatic world uniquely rewards anomalies that would be overlooked in ordinary transactions, and understanding the production context adds depth to this valuation. Because the Denver Mint in 2000 was producing billions of pennies with sophisticated machinery designed for high-speed efficiency, yet the fact that errors like doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets still occurred, albeit rarely, is a testament to the limits of mass production and the role of chance in creating treasures from mistakes. Furthermore, the minting process itself involves several critical stages, from creating and preparing dies, hubbing to transfer designs, striking planchets, and applying quality control inspections, and, at each stage, even the smallest deviation can result in an error that later becomes a numismatic marvel. For example, misalignment in the hubbing process can result in subtle doubling, a planchet slipping in the collar can produce a striking that is off-center, and excessive wear or stress on dies can produce cracks, each contributing uniquely to a coin's value. In the case of the 2000 1 cent, the precise combination of a minor off-center strike, doubling on the date and letters, and die deterioration results in a coin that is singular in its characteristics, and because the coin remains relatively modern, there is documentation and provenance that enhances its legitimacy and desirability. Collectors value the transparency of modern coin errors, knowing the coin's origin, mint, and year, and they can verify the authenticity of the errors, which significantly impacts the premium paid. And this brings us to the dynamics of the market, where demand for high-quality error coins exceeds the number of surviving specimens, and because the 2000 1 cent is known for these highly unusual characteristics, collectors are willing to bid extraordinary sums at auction to secure it, pushing its value to $1.9 million. While some might question why a 1 cent coin could command such a figure, the answer lies in the convergence of rarity, condition, historical interest, and collector psychology. The coin represents a perfect storm of factors, illustrating how numismatics rewards the unlikely, the rare, and the visually striking. And as we explore further, it is also important to understand that coins like this are part of a broader ecosystem of modern error coins, where hundreds of thousands of coins with minor defects exist, but only a handful exhibit the dramatic combination of errors that elevate their value. This makes each 2000 1 cent a coveted piece, often changing hands among serious collectors and investors willing to pay premium prices to own a piece of history that is effectively irreplaceable. Additionally, the coin provides insight into the history of the mint itself, the operational challenges faced during mass production, and the subtle human and mechanical factors that contribute to errors. In essence, the 2000 1 cent is more than just copper-plated zinc. It is a tangible artifact of industrial production, human oversight, and historical context, and as collectors analyze the coin, they study the die alignment, the strike, the off-center degree, the doubling, and the surface features to fully appreciate its uniqueness. The rarity of this combination is what propels the valuation to $1.9 million, and as time progresses, coins like the 2000 1 cent often become even more valuable because the surviving population diminishes due to loss, damage, or circulation, creating a scarcity that the market immediately rewards. Furthermore, the educational aspect of studying such a coin adds intangible value, as it allows collectors, hobbyists, and enthusiasts to understand the intricacies of coin production, the types of errors that can occur, and how careful observation and documentation can turn ordinary coins into extraordinary collectibles. The story of the 2000 penny thus becomes a narrative of chance, precision, rarity, and human fascination, illustrating why even a coin from the year 2000, less than a quarter century old, can command such staggering sums. And it reminds us that in the world of numismatics, value is not just about the metal content but about history, scarcity, condition, and the emotional and psychological factors that drive collecting. So when you hold a coin like the 2000 1 cent in your hand or gaze upon it in an auction catalog, you are looking at a remarkable intersection of modern production, error, and human desire to own something unique. A small piece of metal that encapsulates an extraordinary story, a convergence of factors that have made this penny worth $1.9 million, and It stands as a shining example of how errors can transform ordinary objects into prized treasures, and as we continue exploring coins like this on our channel, remember to subscribe, hit like, and follow along for more incredible stories from the world of numismatics, where history, mistakes, rarity, and passion come together to create the most fascinating and valuable coins imaginable. Coins that turn simple change into legends, and the 2001 cent will forever be remembered as a coin that demonstrates just how extraordinary a small piece of metal can become under the right circumstances, blending the marvel of minting mistakes, the thrill of rarity, and the allure of multimillion-dollar valuation into a single collectible that captivates collectors and enthusiasts alike around the world. Last, we explore the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins, and in particular, a story that captures the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters alike, the tale of the 1997 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $6 million because of the extraordinary errors and mistakes that occurred during its production, making it not just a simple penny but a unique artifact of American minting history. And in this journey we will unravel why this coin, something many would overlook as pocket change, has captured headlines, stirred bidding wars, and transformed into a symbol of how tiny anomalies in mass production can lead to astronomical worth. So let us begin by considering the backdrop of 1997, when billions of Lincoln cents were struck at the U.S. Mint. A year that to most people appeared entirely ordinary in terms of coinage, but within those billions a handful of pieces slipped through with mistakes so unusual that numismatists, collectors, and investors began to take notice. And the specific specimen that we are focusing on is the one riddled with layered minting anomalies that set it apart, because it is not one single error that makes it unique but the remarkable convergence of several rare mistakes on one coin, creating a perfect storm of numismatic intrigue and financial value. And so as we unfold this long examination, we will describe the nature of these errors in detail, beginning with the fundamental concept of what minting errors are and why collectors assign them value. Since most coins leave the press uniform, polished, and identical to millions of others, yet in certain instances mechanical glitches, human oversight, or material flaws create coins that deviate from the standard, and these deviations are where rarity and value emerge, because rarity is the essential driver of collectability. And when the 1997 penny in question was struck, the press alignment was slightly off, leading to what experts call an off-center strike. But unlike common minor off-center errors that might only shift the design by a few percent, this one displays a dramatic misalignment where portions of Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions are noticeably displaced, immediately catching the eye as abnormal. And yet that is only the beginning of its peculiarities, for this coin also bears doubling across several areas of the obverse, which collectors identify as a double die error, most visible on the date 1997 itself, where the numerals show distinct doubling, almost as though they were shadowed, and this doubling is crisp enough to be visible without magnification, amplifying its appeal, since doubled dies are some of the most famous and sought-after minting errors in history, like the legendary 1955 doubled die cent, and the presence of such doubling on a coin already featuring an off-center strike magnifies its uniqueness. But the narrative continues deeper, because the planchet used for this coin was not flawless either, showing signs of improper alloy mixture, a metallurgical error where streaks of different coloration run through the surface, giving it a distinct tone compared to normal copper-plated zinc cents of that era, and this irregular composition makes the coin not only visually striking but also structurally significant. Since alloy errors are uncommon especially in the 1990s when quality control was generally strict, and to add yet another layer of intrigue, careful study revealed die cracks across Lincoln's bust and extending toward the rim, forming what numismatists call retained cut errors where portions of the die break down during use and transfer these cracks and raised lines onto the coin, creating dramatic textures that make each affected coin unique, and the combination of off-center strike, doubled die features, alloy streaking, and die cracks all in one specimen is virtually unheard of, which is why it has gained the status of being valued at $6 million. Because in numismatics the value is not merely about age but about uniqueness, rarity, condition, and the demand from those who understand its significance. And when a coin embodies several rare anomalies together, it becomes a once-in-a-generation find, the kind of coin that collectors will battle over in high-profile auctions, and that is exactly what has happened with this 1997 cent. As stories circulated in numismatic circles and collectors examined the coin with awe, major auction houses began highlighting it as a centerpiece, sparking global attention and pushing its value into the multi-million range. And one must understand that beyond the specific errors, what drives such explosive valuations is also the cultural fascination with the idea that something so small and common as a penny can defy its face value to become an object of fortune. It is the paradox of the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary, and that paradox fuels media coverage, public interest, and the imagination of investors looking to diversify their portfolios into tangible assets like rare coins. And indeed, this 1997 penny has been compared with other historic rarities like the 1943 copper cent or the 1933 double eagle, not because it shares the same history but because it demonstrates how unexpected mistakes in minting can create icons of numismatic history. So as we peel back the story further, let us also consider the role of grading services like PCGS and NGC, which authenticate, grade, and encapsulate coins to provide assurance to buyers, and in the case of this 1997 cent, the grading agencies confirmed the multiple errors, assigning it a high mint state grade because despite its anomalies it was preserved in exceptional condition, free from circulation wear, which only amplified its desirability, since condition is another multiplier of value in coin collecting. And to imagine how this coin survived decades without entering circulation heavily is itself a curiosity. Perhaps pulled early by someone who noticed its oddities and safeguarded it, and their foresight ultimately preserved a coin that today is worth millions. And when one looks closer at the cultural fascination surrounding coins like this, it becomes clear that it is not just collectors but also casual enthusiasts who are captivated, because the very idea that a cent from 1997, a year most of us remember clearly, can be worth more than luxury mansions and sports cars is astonishing, and it prompts many to search through their own jars of change and drawers for hidden treasures, a phenomenon that has only grown with social media where stories of rare coins found in circulation go viral, encouraging new generations to pay attention to numismatics. And in this sense the $6,001,997 penny is more than an artifact, it is a symbol of hope and curiosity. A reminder that remarkable things can hide in plain sight, and when we analyze the mechanics of how such errors occurred. In 1997, we see a convergence of human oversight, machine wear, and random chance, for the off-center strike suggests a feeding issue where the blank planchet was not seated correctly in the collar, the doubled die points to a flaw in hubbing where the design was impressed into the die twice in misaligned fashion, the alloy streaking indicates inconsistencies in metal preparation, and the die cracks reveal a deteriorating die that was used beyond its optimal lifespan, and all of these factors occurred simultaneously in the production of one coin, a virtually impossible combination, which is why only one known specimen of this type exists, and that singularity is what propels it into the multi-million-dollar category, because in numismatics rarity is everything, and absolute uniqueness is the pinnacle of rarity. So when people ask why anyone would pay $6 million for a penny, the answer lies in that word, uniqueness, because collectors at the highest level are not merely buying a coin but buying a story, a piece of history, a conversation piece that stands at the intersection of chance and craftsmanship, and the 1997 cent delivers all of that, and more, for in it we see the drama of the minting process, the unpredictability of human error, the beauty of metallurgical variation, and the endurance of cultural fascination with money itself. And so the legend of this coin continues to grow, inspiring treasure hunters, teaching new collectors the value of detail, and reminding all of us that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. And as we bring this exploration to a close, remember that the story of the 1997 penny is not just about one coin but about the broader truth that history, rarity, and human curiosity transform objects into treasures. And if you found this journey fascinating and want to keep discovering the hidden world of rare coins and unexpected fortunes in everyday change, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that uncover the hidden wealth and history behind the coins we often take for granted.